It is such a great pleasure and honor to host our event, Young Researchers, How They Make an Impact. Our event will be divided into the following segments: introduction, panel discussion, the Q&A segment, and the closing. So before we proceed with the most exciting part of today's session, I'd like to kindly remind everyone of the following ground rules. Please make sure that your microphone is muted upon arrival, and please keep it that way. During the session, only the panels and the interviewing IASSS members will speak using their microphones. During the Q&A session, the questions submitted via the registration form will be prioritized. If there are questions based on the context of the discussion, please use the Zoom's chat function. These questions will be addressed should we have enough time. The recording of the event will be available on the IASSS website and the YouTube channel at a later stage. Please do follow us on social media, including LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And importantly, the March Research Talk WhatsApp group to stay informed about the administrative points involving the certificate of attendance. So now for the most exciting part, I'd like to introduce our special guests for tonight. In an alphabetical order, Dr. Avanthika Chaithanya, Dr. Francisco Javier Bonilla Escobar, Dr. Sharon Jivari, and Mr. Tufik Abdul Rahman. Dr. Avanthika Chaithanya is an incoming pediatric resident of Icahn School of Medicine in New York City. She enjoys working in academic research and has more than 30 index publications in pediatrics and primary care medicine. She is also on the editorial board for many international journals. Along with Dr. Sharon Jivari, she is a co-founder of the Otto Research Initiative, a non-for-profit organization that teaches and mentors international medical students and graduates in basic research methodology. Dr. Francisco Javier Bonilla Escobar is the editor-in-chief of the International Journal of Medical Students. He is a researcher and collaborator of several research groups in public health, ophthalmology and visual sciences, injuries, mental health, global surgery, and rehabilitation in Colombia and the US. He has published more than 40 scientific original articles, reaching more than 1,000 citations. He is currently finishing his PhD in clinical research and translational science at the University of Pittsburgh. Dr. Sharon Jivari is a co-founder of Otto Research Initiative. Being involved in research projects are the perfect place for him to exercise 3 of his favorite hobbies, that is public speaking, entrepreneurship, and scientific discovery. He aspires to be in a position where he can teach, conduct research, and maintain a clinical practice. And lastly, Mr. Abdul Rahman Tufik is a CEO and founder of Tufik's World Medical Association and co-founder of Icahn Collaborative. He is an associate editor at the Harvard Public Health Review and a senior editor at the New York City Daily Post. Due to his passion for diplomacy and research, he has presented and also held international positions on various United Nations and medical conference platforms. So now we will proceed to our first topic, and that is the personal journey. And on a very personal note, those are some of the researchers that I have been admiring due to their passion and involvement in medical education and research. So it is such an honor to be able to invite them and get to listen to what they have to offer. Now, with such impressive panelists with us, I'd like to invite each panelist to share their personal journey as a researcher. I'll be inviting them in an order that I can see on the screen. So I'll start with Dr. Chaithanya.
Hello, and thank you for that warm introduction. I'm very, very excited to be here. My journey with research started pretty late, I guess, because I see a lot of med students who are starting off with research in the early years of med school. My journey with research started when I was in my final year or my intern year of med school. That's when I started becoming more actively interested in research and figuring out that this is something I'm actually passionate about. Despite having a late start, 3 years down the line, having around 30 publications, it has been a very, very wild journey and a very tumultuous journey, I can say, because there were so many ups and so many downs. I think my personal affiliation with research and the reason why I'm so interested in it is because of the fact that I've always been someone who's curious and someone who wants to find out the why and the hows behind everything. And I think, as simple as it may be, that's the reason why I like researching topics and writing review papers. That's one of the primary fortes of my research, that I write reviews, literature, and systematic. While I might not have a lot of experience with the other forms of research, I do writing review papers because the platform to figure out where the gap in literature is and what's missing and what needs to be found. So that's something that I really like addressing, especially in the primary healthcare, where there are so many newer treatments coming up every single day that you want to figure out which one of them are good, which one of them has significant trials, and so on. So that's pretty much what my research journey has been like so far. And running the Otto Research Initiative with Sharan has also been a really, really great plus point. I think because of that, we've also enjoyed teaching and mentoring a lot of young students and grads regarding research methodology and basic research. So yeah, I'm excited to keep going as a resident, and let's see where it takes me. Thank you.
That sounds wonderful. Next, I'll invite Dr. Charan Javeri.
Hi, everybody. I started my research journey in second year of my medical school. I started with unconventional topic at the time. It was adult ADHD in adults, essentially. And I found that topic really interesting, and I pursued it with all my heart. But being a fresh researcher, I essentially made all the mistakes that you can make in your first article. Pretty much everything that you think of, I probably made that mistake while conducting that study. And I think it took me like 3 years or something to get that study into print. But it was so many brick walls that you run into. And then when you sort of find a way of evading them or find a way through them, that's what kind of teaches you and makes you a better researcher, in my opinion. So yeah, I started with that, and then I was so frustrated with the whole process. I'm just going to do review articles, or I'm going to do systematic reviews or meta-analysis essentially too, because it doesn't require the same amount of bureaucratic red tape essentially to get do like a review article or a meta-analysis, right? So me and two of my friends, we actually conducted 4 metas under the internal medicine department, the pharmacology department, and we did 2 with a cardiologist. That's when COVID hit, and all of these great conferences went online because they'd all been planned. Essentially, what we got to do was we got to present in all of these different countries to all these international faculties these papers that we'd worked on for the past 1 year. And I think that gave us a lot of exposure again to how things are done abroad. Where can we improve and what can we do differently? In my internship year, I tried launching a project and I added my friends as my co-authors. And again, that was a mistake. Yeah, I think if anybody has done that, you know what I'm talking about. And so it's just been one mistake after the other, but then you learn and you learn, you get wiser, you get wiser. And now I feel I'm in a position where I can help other people not make those same mistakes. I met Avanthika online, and then I think we worked on like a couple of literature reviews ourselves. We realized, we can actually teach this to other people because people don't know how this is done. And that's when we started Otto, essentially. So that's how it's been. It's been a roller coaster, of course. Running Otto it's been a lot of fun. More than the research, I think it's been just running the whole organization. It's been so much fun. It's like a startup, to be honest. That's how I view it. So yeah, that's how it's been for me.
Sounds wonderful. Next, I'm going to invite Mr. Tufik Abdul Rahman. He's also CEO of Tufik's World of Medical Education.
Hello, Sangin. First of all, I would like to thank you and your team for inviting me on this platform to share my research experience and journey with colleagues and doctors that have gathered here for this section. My journey in research started when I was in second year of medical school. And this was the time that I was trying to set a vision and goals for myself as a medical student after spending most of my first year studying my new school and its environment. As someone who has a natural predilection to make a difference wherever I find myself, it appeared to me in the form of question that, so what would it take for me to be recognized as one of the most successful or greatest medical students that have ever attended my university? I had only two answers to that question at that time. So first one was, okay, I felt like I should graduate medical school with excellent grades. And then secondly, I felt like, okay, maybe I should be able to leave a legacy, or I should be able to achieve something unique that I will always be remembered with after graduation. But as to what that unique thing was, I had no idea. So I kept thinking about it, and then luckily for me, a few weeks after, I had a class in anatomy, and so I went to class in the morning, and I was told that the class had been cancelled because my university was organizing a medical conference for postgraduate doctors, young scientists, and professors. And my anatomy professor happened to be presenting at that conference, so the class was cancelled. At that time, I had no idea what it was like, what the medical conference looked like, because I had never attended one before. And so we were invited to the conference, and so I went. I attended with my colleagues. So when we got to the conference, we went to the section on anatomy and morphology, because that was where my professor was presenting. So, well, I was very surprised to meet almost all the top professors in my university gathered for that section. And so to sum it up, overall, I had a very great experience with that conference. And I also enjoyed the topics that were presented by junior doctors, because most of them were interesting, and they also related to stuff that I was studying in class. And I was also extremely motivated to see junior doctors that are not too far ahead of me in terms of education, sharing such huge platform with professors. So I think that was the day I decided that I want to do research, and then I want to make a difference with research. I felt like that was the unique thing that I was looking for. So after our next anatomy class, I approached my anatomy teacher, and I told her that I wanted to do research, but she rejected me for the first time and said most of the projects she was working on were too advanced for my level of knowledge at that time. So she advised me to focus on my academics, and then maybe I can consider a career in research maybe after graduation from medical school, maybe somewhere in my master's. But I did not give up. Instead, I decided to look into research myself. So I started reading about research on the internet, and then I started enrolling in online courses. So what I used to do is after every anatomy class, I would go to my teacher and then ask her some questions. I asked her questions about things that I was finding difficult to understand. Kept doing that, and then after like almost 3 to 4 months time, one day after anatomy class, my teacher told me to stay behind after class. She came to me and she said that she has noticed that I have very strong interest in research, and so she has decided to help me. And then she said the reason why she rejected me the first time was that she has an experience with most of the medical students. They come for opportunities, but the thing is, when they get the opportunities, somewhere along the line, they lose interest and they quit. So she decided not to work with like medical students again. So that was basically her explanation. So she took me to the lab, and then she showed me a couple of projects that she was trying to work on. She took me through stuff in the lab, and then I think we worked on the project. And then in the subsequent year, she gave me the opportunity to present the work in our schools, in our university's conference. So my presentation, it went well. And I think most of the professors that attended that session were very, very impressed. And I think that particular opportunity opened so many doors for me. I think that was the beginning of my history in research. So I got offers from the pediatrics department, the pathology department. Almost all the professors wanted to work with me. So since then, I've grown to where I am today. And so I think that's where it started. So from there, the rest is history.
So that has been very interesting to hear. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Bonilla Escobar.
Yeah, thank you. We were just publishing the last issue of the International Journal of Medical Students, this is one of my babies. We have been working in the journal for over 10 years. We publish 4 issues every year. And so this is kind of part of my daily life. The journal is something that we do, trying to promote medical student research, trying to help people to get their work published. And I am not alone on this journey. Actually, one of the speakers here today, Dr. Avanthika, she was part of our team last year, of our team of student editors. So it's a pleasure to be here with her today. Hi, Avanthika.
Hey, hi.
And so for me, it's like I think I'm one of the oldest in this meeting. So thank you for calling me young. I graduated from med school almost 10 years ago. My first research project was actually by chance that I arrived into that project. I was part of this organization of medical students trying to promote research among other students. And I was assigned a group of residents to try to work with them. And of course, my personality is that if I start something, I want to finish it. And so we work like long hours, learning with the residents, learning with the faculty, actually, because not even the faculty have a publication. So that was a first for a lot of people. It was a first for me. It was a first for the residents. It was a first for the faculty to get a publication. And there were a lot of things in that experience that were learned. For example, where are you in the outdoors? And so it was funny because as I was the youngest, I was the last author in that paper, but I did the most of the work. And so we know now, and I know now that I should have been the first, but it was a first for my faculty and for the residents. So it was like a lot of difficulties, like what are you going to do? What are you going to move? How are you going to touch this topic? It was very interesting to have that experience. Then I take, the regular classes of medicine in research, and I learned how to calculate chi-square by hand, how to calculate confidence intervals by hand, which were useless information. And I still said that to everybody. I have taken 3 times classes on statistics and research methods. They are all the same, and they are useless. We learn there how to calculate things by hand, but what are they for? But we don't learn how to apply them in real life. And so I finished med school, and during my intern year, I was like, I need to learn more about research. I want to continue to do research, but I don't have the basis. So I did a master in epidemiology. I joined a research group in the university. They were very recognized, so I was able to do like high impact research with them. And that was an advantage. Of course, they receive students, but with med school and everything, the projects that they have to give to med students are less impactful as the actual projects that they have when you are working for them as a researcher or as an intern. And so I learned that there. I tried to support medical students there. We started the journal around 5th year of medical school, so we were publishing things back in the days with other students. And once I was done with my master, I did, as a thesis, I did a clinical trial, which was great because my university has very few trials. But I wanted to learn more, so I decided to apply for a PhD in the US. I was lucky enough to have met a mentor before I came to the US to do my PhD. And that's the summary of my career. I have been exposed to different mentors, to different classes, and it's just like a long pathway of learning, like setbacks, but try to come back with just effort and patience. Having like your dreams or your aim clear is what kind of make us move forward into this career as a scientist. And actually, this is a great opportunity for me to share the last editorial that we just published, because it's talking about the global needs and the barriers for physician scientists, and how Dr. Fauci, in his last interview in the New England Journal of Medicine, published last week, he was saying that we are all scientists. And we wish that we are all scientists, but a scientist needs to do research. Like we physicians, like kind of researchers, we need to look through the patient, we analyze information, we come to a conclusion. Yes, that's kind of scientific method. But being a scientist is more than just analyzing a patient and being able to come to a diagnosis. We need to do the research, collect the data, endure this process, and publish a paper. And so thank you very much for having me. It's a real pleasure to share this table with this amazing crowd too. Thank you very much.
Wow, that's really inspiring. Like, I'm really looking forward to hearing your insight on the mentorship. It's one of the topics that we'd like to discuss later in the panel discussion. But wow, like all your story is truly, truly inspiring. And it's such an honor to have you here. So our next topic of discussion is surpassing barriers to medical student research. Despite the increasing attention as well as the significant benefit to medical student research involvement, many encounter hurdles towards such practice, such as lack of time, lack of access to resources, and the lack of skills and mentoring. The panelists can raise their hand or unmute themselves to share the insight on the topic.
Do I just speak?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, Dr.
So I think, this is kind of exactly the problem that Avanthika and I wanted to solve with the Otto Research Initiative, which is precisely this, right? That you have a lot of people who are passionate, who want to learn about research, but don't really know or don't really have the skills or the time or the training to even get started. See, once you have a marketable skill, if you say you're like a statistician or you say you can write papers, you can walk up to any professor and say, hey, I'll do the statistics for you, or I'll write the manuscript for you, and you might land a job, or you might get your name on a paper, or you might at least get some experience. But what about the people who are like at this beginning, who have no idea who's taking care of them, right? And so I think one thing, or there are two things that I want to tell, especially the participants here, people who are starting out. If you're like a young researcher like me, like I just graduated med school, right? And if you're a young researcher, you really want to do something. There are two things that might sort of give you a little bit of perspective on how to go about doing this, right? The first thing is, don't go after flashy advanced studies when your fundamentals are weak, right? So a lot of people try to jump and like do a network meta-analysis before even ever having done like a cross-sectional study, right? So you need to learn how to walk before you run, because once you do like a basic, simple, well-designed study, you will learn a lot of the things that you'll apply in your advanced studies. And you won't have to, spend as much time understanding those concepts later on, right? And the best way to do that is to work with a public health professional. So it can be, in India, we have the PSM department, that's what it's called. It's the preventive and social medicine. Every country has a different version of it. If you don't have a public health system integrated into in medicine, there's always public health professionals who are like epidemiologists or other kinds who actually, for whom research is their bread and butter. Right? Most clinicians in this part of the world are not formally trained in research. They are formally trained in medicine. They're good clinicians, great clinicians, right? But they're not trained how to do research formally. So you want them on your paper, but you want the consultant as a consultant. You don't want the consultant as your mentor. Your mentor should be a public health. If you're starting out, your mentor should be your first, your mentor should be a public health professional, at least for your first study. And if you're doing like a paper on cardiology, for instance, get a cardiologist on to give a clinical angle to your paper. But have your mentor be somebody who publishes regularly and who understands the process in and out. And that sort of segues into my second point, which is you have to be choosy. You don't have to be choosy about the topic when you're starting out. When you're starting out, right, try to understand the process first. Once you know the process, and like the thing is, this is something that people don't talk about, that research resources are not universal across even disciplines within a college. Some departments are really good, some departments are not. If you want to be a cardiologist and your nephrology department is doing exceptional research, what I would do in that situation would be to spend 6 months with the nephrology guys, learn the basics at least, and then find somebody in my college or in my city, or even reach out somewhere, but have the basics down. Understanding the process, I think, is a step that a lot of people miss. And people are like, oh, I want to be a cardiologist, I'm going to start with a cardiology paper. But try to learn the process before you become extremely choosy. If you have the option, it's fine. But if you don't have the option, try to learn the process first. I think that's at least from what I've learned from my experience. I think that's what I would do if I was starting in med school again.
Thank you for that. Dr. Chaithanya?
Yeah, just to add on to what Sharon said, I think the biggest barrier for med students when it comes to research is the lack of exposure. And I can say that for Indian med schools, well, most Indian med schools, because I did my med schooling in India. So we do not have any research integrated curriculum in our med school, whether it's our second, third, or final year. So when we are studying med school, it's very clinical oriented. It's just, seeing the cases, learning how to diagnose, but we don't know how to start writing a paper. We don't know anything about research backgrounds. And I think because the lack of exposure, when we start pursuing journeys towards the USMLE or towards the UK or anywhere else where it requires you to have a CV where research is an important component, we start feeling lost. And then we start feeling like, okay, so how do I start? So I think the how do I start and what is the first step is the biggest barrier to any medical student, because once you start working on research papers and once you start publishing, it's a process that you learn. It's like cycling, like when you know how to do it, you just like keep doing it. You don't really think about it. But how to start, like the initial aspect, that's the biggest barrier for any med student. That's something that I personally faced as well. I was really interested in doing pediatric research in med school as a student. But again, like Sharon said, there are a lot of great clinicians, but not every clinician is a great researcher. So I approached a lot of amazing doctors, but I realized that they weren't able to teach me research. So the best departments in med school, which are willing to teach you research, is usually the paraclinical departments like physiology, anatomy, biochemistry, pathology, because they are always publishing papers along with community medicine, family medicine. So primary care and especially paraclinical subjects are always more research oriented. So I made the mistake of directly jumping to a clinical specialty while pursuing my first research paper, and it didn't work out very well. However, that's a lesson learned. And once I started working on research after my final year of med school, I realized that it's always best to start small. Whether it's the smallest case report or whether it's the smallest review paper, even if it's published in a low impact journal, even if it's not published in like the best possible journal, but it doesn't matter because you're still taking the first step, you're still starting, and you're still getting something done, you're still getting something published. I think another reason why a lot of med students are afraid to start their research journey is again the fear of rejection. We see a lot of people getting rejected by journals, and when you put in so much hard work in a paper and you get rejected by one journal, you feel like giving up. You're like, okay, you know what, this is done, I don't want to work on this. But you have, like, I think the one thing that we have to come to terms with is the rejection is not personal, and there is a certain limit of articles that every journal can take in. So it doesn't need to be like there's something wrong with your articles. It's just that they weren't able to take it. So overcoming the fear of being rejected by multiple journals and still going on to publish, I think once you pass that step, it kind of gets easier to publish more and more papers and get into the research journey. So I think these are a couple of barriers that I have personally faced, and I've seen a lot of my students face, especially when they work with us at Otto. So yeah, this is something that I wanted to put forward to the panel.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I think always the stepping stone is always the hardest to achieve. And then from there on, based on the experience that you earn, things go a lot easier. I don't know, like if Dr. Francisco Escobar or Mr. Tufik wants to add anything.
Sure. So going back to my experience, I think for me, it worked to join a group of medical students trying to do research. Like there are medical student organizations all over the world. We can start by mentioning the International Federation of Medical Students Association, IFMSA. In Latin America, there is FELSOSEM, which stands for Latin American Federation of Medical Students. And so these societies create these small chapters in each university. And you can find groups of students with interest in doing things. I think as Dr. Avanthika said, it's very important to look for the right mentors and the right areas of exploration. Like I think I did the same as she did. I tried to get a paper in oncology, and we tried really hard. We collected really weird data, important data, comparing two institutions, like trying to find disparities. But it was too far away from what we can reach, what we can hold together. And so that paper never saw the light. We went to conference, we win awards because it was like a lot of effort. But at the end, it didn't have the strength to be a publishable article. And so very important to reach mentors that are actually doing research, that are actually publishing, because you can think like on your next step. Of course, we are ambitious people, and we want, for example, to be a neurosurgeon. So I'm going to join this neurosurgeon to make him my mentor. But if this person is not publishing, if this person is not doing actively research, then you are probably going to be stuck and not get the outcome that you need in terms of research, because you have short-term goals. The medical school is so short, and so joining labs that are doing active research, doing research centers that are publishing actively, that of course, they need to be friendly to students. That's another thing. Like everybody's so busy, and maybe you can find mentors that are so ambitious that they don't want to waste time teaching. So that's kind of difficult. So trying to listen to other people's advice, look for successful people, send them an email from your med school in the past to see how they got there, who they talked to, I have published in my career in several different areas. My passion is ophthalmology, but I needed to start somewhere. And lucky enough, I published my first research in ophthalmology. But if you look at my CV, I have publications in violence, injuries, road safety, because that was the group that hosted me and helped me to grow as a researcher during my master and during my intern year. And I don't see that as a barrier or a deviation. I was learning what I wanted to learn in terms of research and getting the goals that I wanted, to have publications and to be able to provide something back into the society. So finding a good mentor and finding people that are trying to do the same things as you do, I think it will be kind of my piece of advice.
Yeah, thank you very much for your insight. Next, we will move on to the next topic, actually. Okay. So the next topic of discussion is career development strategies. All our panelists have been recognized on a local and international level with their tremendous achievement as a researcher and a clinician. So I'd like to invite the panelists to share what is their secret to achieving high and what are their strategies.
I think Abdul should take the stage first. I mean, we've been talking. Let's. I think you should take it first, man.
Doctor, I saw that you're muted.
I think Abdul is on mute. Yeah.
Yes, you're unmuted now. I can hear you now. You're muted again. Let's see if I can do something. Otherwise, while Dr. Javeri is sorting out his technical issue, can we invite any other panelists to add on this topic?
No, what I said was I think Dr. Abdul should speak because the three of us have spoken. That's what I said.
Okay.
Yeah, because the three of us have spoken, we were yet to hear from Abdul. So I'd like to hear from him, especially on this topic. That's why I'm kind of waiting for him.
Sure thing. Mr. Tufik?
Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Welcome back.
All right. So topic is on career development strategy. So depending on the career you're trying to develop, I don't know what, since we are talking about research, I'm going to tailor everything to suit research. Yeah. Well, I do agree with Dr. Chaithanya that the main problem or barrier that is faced by medical students when for research is like is the how to start and then how to get the opportunities. So well, I think that is, yeah, I do agree because I think research is not actually taught as a program in undergraduate medical school. It's more like an extracurricular activity. So I think that's why we are facing that problem. So depending on that, research can be divided into two broad categories depending on the type of data you are trying to analyze and collect and analyze. So we have like primary research, and then we have like the secondary research. So depending on which type of research you want to have an experience with or depending on the type of research experience you are looking for, I would suggest different strategies and approach for you. So if you are actually looking for primary experience in primary research, and then I suggest the following. The main thing you should do is you have to contact your university professors because they are the best people to help you. So, but the thing is, before you approach them, you really have to work on yourself before you do that. And either than that, you might end up getting rejected when you approach them or not getting that opportunity you are looking for. So I suggest the following. So I'm going to share a few tips with you, and these tips can be applied. They can help you achieve anything you want in life if you take them seriously and use them in the right way. So the first thing you have to do, for example, if you want to get an experience in research, maybe primary research, the first thing you have to do is the reason why. You have to identify the reason why you want to do research. And research is the journey of research is a very long one, and how far one can go, it's influenced by several factors, including the reason why you are embarking on that journey. So why do you want to do research? Is it because of social media or peer pressure, or is it because you want to build a competitive CV for your future application, or is it because you have like a strong interest or passion for research? And then I think the second is for you to set a vision for yourself. So you need to set a vision and goals for your research career. And so you need to have a clear picture of what your life look like after being able to complete all your objectives or goals. And I think the next thing is to I think you have to work on your knowledge in research. You have to work on it. So at least if you want to participate in research, you should have some kind of basic or general idea about what research is about and what the process look like and everything. Because you don't want to approach a professor with empty knowledge, like you don't know anything. Because like I said, it's not like a program that is for undergraduates. So if you want to go in, then you have to show that you are competent. You know, the professors are looking for something. It's not like you just come like, okay, I want to do research. They want to see some kind of seriousness in you. They want to see some kind of like passion or interest. They want to know you have interest for that thing you are coming for. And then lastly, before you approach any professor, I think you should do a background search about that professor, if that professor is really into research or not, or the professor is, even if the professor is in research, is the person operating in the field of your research interest. That is also very, very key, because not all professors are in research. Sometimes my experience is not all professors are in research. They might reject you and then come up with an excuse, but the problem is they feel, I don't know if it's some kind of embarrassing for them to just tell you that they are not in research or something, so they give you some kind of excuses. So I think before you approach any teacher or any professor in your university, you should do a background check and see if that professor is into research, and is that professor actually operating in the field of your research interest. So after this, then I think you are ready to approach any professor. You should try that. And then another alternative thing you can do is like you can also apply for summer research internship programs, which are also very good. But the problem here is if you are new, this kind of application requires a competitive CV. So if you are quite new, it's quite like challenging if you don't have anything like if you haven't built anything. The main thing is for you to contact your university professors, like I said. And then if you are looking to if you try this and it doesn't work, I think, like I said, research, we have different types of research. Then you can try the secondary research approach. And this with this, I think you can my advice is you should connect with people on social media that are into publishing. You can today, if you go to LinkedIn, you see a lot of people posting about where their works on LinkedIn. You can just contact them and then ask for opportunities from them. And then secondly, you have to join organizations. You have to look for organizations that are into research. For example, like my organization, or the Otto Research for I think Dr. Chaithanya, and you can look for there are a lot of them out there. You can look for them and then you try and apply. And another thing you should also another place you could also look is try to attend more virtual conferences. Today, a lot of virtual conferences are organized free of charge. You can look online, search for some of them, and then try and then register for any of them. And the thing is, my advice is when you attend the conferences, try to connect with the speakers and presenters, and then ask them for like research opportunities. These are people that stand a high chance of giving you opportunities. And like what I said before like what I said initially, before you approach, you it always has to start from you. You have to really work on yourself before you make any approach. And so before you approach any kind of organization or anybody for research, like the most important thing is you must have some kind of knowledge. At least you have to read. You have to read something, because this is something you said you want to do. So I think you have to put some effort. So I don't think there is anybody that wants any. I don't think there's anybody that wants people who don't have like any experience at all. At least you should have some basic knowledge in research. And then secondly, I think you should work on your skills. Maybe you should work on your, I think for secondary research, the most important thing is for you to work on your writing skills. And then I think you should be able to identify information and then analyze and then extract information. And you may also need certain skills like how to reference works. These are some basic things that you need to work on before you approach anybody. And thirdly, you could also try and then have some kind of publication, because with many people, when you try to approach people, they always want to see like you are in research or you have published something before they, because most of these organization and institution are looking for people who have some kind of experience. If you don't have any experience, what I suggest is there are other ways of publishing. You don't necessarily have to publish any research. You could try writing some blog posts. There are a lot of blog post websites there. Try and write something, because usually when people, for secondary research, people just want to analyze your writing skills. And, so at least try writing some kind of blog post, publish something, so that you can at least show when you approach somebody, you can show them like, okay, I've done something, at least it's better than nothing. So I think this kind of stuff are very good, and they might increase your chances in succeeding when you approach anybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tufek. I think it was Dr. Escobar who raised up the hand first.
Thank you. So this is a difficult topic to talk about, but I will start to say that let's don't reinvent the wheel. So maybe in your university, there is an association of students, there is a group of students doing things. You can also look for international collaborations. Something that I really admire, for example, is the Otto Initiative. There is also something called the IASSS. And as these two, there are plenty of other organizations that are trying to do mentorship, do mini groups of students to get them together to do research. And so I know we want like big achievements in our CV, like I created this organization or this other thing, but you can just join another one and use their experience to learn and to grow with them. So, and in terms of entrepreneurship, I will say, join these kind of initiatives, try to work with them. If you're a leader, you will find your place within these organizations, because it's very difficult to start from scratch, while if you can join something, maybe you can help them to grow into something different. And this organization can also help somebody that is behind you, we also try a lot to let some legacy. And so sustainability in these organizations is kind of difficult, but maybe you can work around these issues to help a medical student organization that is already out there working towards some goal in terms of research. In terms of scholarships and opportunities, I am not quite sure about the question, but I will say that once you are in your med school and you know what is your next step after med school, it's not that easy to get a scholarship. In my case, for example, I wanted to go to do a PhD in the US, but I needed to get a grant from the Colombian government to be able to come to the US to do this PhD program. But there are different PhD programs or master programs that also offer like funding for the people coming in. But for that, you need to be part of that research group. You need to have legal status in the country that you're going to. And so depends on what you want to achieve. That's where you need to look for the scholarships. If it's for career development, then you need to look for inside your country or in the university that you're applying to. But yes, it's kind of like a case-based situation. And so, yes, that's what I can say about that. Thank you.
Okay, next, Dr. Javeri.
Yeah, I think I'll be quick. I think a lot of people who are in medical school, majority of them, when they are doing research, they don't want to be career academics, right? From my experience, most people want to either dip their feet, get their feet a little wet, figure out what's going on so that they're aware of how things are happening. And more importantly, if they're, as Avanthika said, if they want to immigrate to the West or to the UK or to Australia or a place where you need a portfolio rather than just your scores, then they get involved. I'm talking very frankly, like I'm talking absolute practical realities of at least what I see in and around me. And in our experience with Otto, we've worked with people from, I think, 40 plus countries right now. And I used to think this is just India, but it's not. It's a very, very large majority of the world that has the exact same system where research is hard to come by, right? So I think to the people in the audience, what I want to tell you is one, research is important, but not every physician needs to become a researcher, right? So if you don't enjoy research, don't try to force yourself to become a researcher, because you won't become a good one. Because this and this journey, and this thing applies to pretty much anything, right? If you don't enjoy what you do, there are inevitably going to be challenges when you're trying to break into that top 5, top 10 percentile, across the 90, 95 percentile. If you don't enjoy what you do, you're not going to be able to sustain it for a long time. It is better to find something that you actually enjoy. Now, when it comes to, then the next question is, okay, let's say I enjoy something that's a little non-conventional, and I want to somehow make an impact and sort of help build my CV in a way, but help create opportunity for other people also, right? So the way I think about it is, what you want to do is you want to marry what you enjoy and find a way to create impact on the people around you. If you can do that, right, I promise you, you don't need to worry about your profile. You don't need to worry about your CV. You don't need to worry about anything. After that, once you have found something that you enjoy and you can impact people around you positively, right? I think that is the easiest way to creating something good. And I kind of disagree with Dr. Escobar here. I mean, I think he makes a really good point when it comes to not reinventing the wheel. So you need to have a little bit of experience. But I genuinely feel that if you end up creating something on your own, right, the amount of things that you will learn about just communication and how things work, how humans interact with each other, the teamwork aspect of it, the leadership aspect of it, I think those things are impossible to learn if you're not the last person defending the line. Right? If you're a founder or if you've created something from scratch, those responsibilities fall onto you. And when you learn to deal with those problems, that kind of teaches you a lot of things that you didn't expect to. Right? And like I said, a simple example that I give, this does seem a little bit intimidating when I talk about it with my friends, even with my friends. But I'll give you a simple example, right? Let's say you enjoy dancing, but you're not like a professional dancer. You enjoy dancing. That's it, right? how do you create a positive impact on the people around you while, developing your entrepreneurial spirit or trying to work on that, right? How do you do that? You look for ways to create positive impact on the people around you. So, okay, there's an old age home or there's an orphanage somewhere. Start organizing a dance workshop once a week there, right? You do that once, twice. You're not doing it because you want something from it. You're doing it because you enjoy the process. And as you do it, you will find, and as you create positive, and as you spread positivity, and as you create positive change amongst people around you, you will find other people who will want to join you. And all of those things that I said, organization, marketing, all of that, you will learn that automatically. You don't have to set out to learn any of those things. Those things will be taught to you automatically if you just follow what you enjoy. And that's how Otto started. Avanthika and I enjoy research, and we we really enjoy teaching. I'm an elder brother, so I've done this like my whole life. Right. So we enjoy doing this, and that's what we wanted to do. And then all of those things that I mentioned, we learned on the way. We didn't set out with a mindset of, okay, how do you market and how do you create posters and how do you run teams. You don't set out with a goal. You set out with the goal of, okay, I want to help people, and while I'm helping people, I want to enjoy that process. If you do that, everything else sorts of falls into place. You know what I mean? And of course, this is a forum of research, and we've talked a lot about research, but I really want to emphasize the fact that not everybody has to do research. Research is just, if you're a medical student and you're applying to be like a clinician in the US or UK or whatever, it is the most bang for your buck product on your CV, because you do one good research experience, right? You can write it. It goes under research experience. It goes under publication. It goes under presentation, under your oral presentation, or under your poster presentation. So yes, it is extremely practical to do it. There's also, these systems are evidence-based systems, so you need to be able to contribute to that particular economy also. You need to be able to contribute, because these people, right, the people in the States and in the UK, everywhere that research happens, right, what they do, and it's not just the US or UK, it's everywhere, but what is research? What you're doing is you're looking at the boundary of what is known and unknown, and you're asking a question, and you're expanding what is known, right? That's all research is, down to its absolute basic. So if you can contribute to that process, not only is it better for you, but you also become more valuable to the ecosystem in general. That's why it's important. So knowing about it, learning about it is important. But if you don't want to be a career academic, that's fine. And I'm emphasizing this because too many medical students spend years, trying to learn about advanced research techniques. And the moment they get into the residency, they just forget about it and they never really pursue it, which I think is just a lot of wasted potential, right? And that's why I think that, since we have anyways in medical school, we barely have enough time to do what we actually enjoy. Capitalizing on things that you actually enjoy and trying to make it big there, I think is more practical than trying to do something that everybody else is doing just because you don't want to feel left out. It's just not, yes, you need to learn a little bit, you need to know the basics, you need to be practical, but I mean, don't risk your whole career for something that you don't really enjoy. Find out what you enjoy and then follow that. I think that's the bottom line.
Thank you very much. We're actually going to move on to our last. Yes, sorry, Dr. Escobar.
Sorry for jumping that way.
No
yes,
worries.
I agree with Dr. Javeri. It's very troubling to think that physicians should or shouldn't be scientists. I agree with the statement that not everybody should pursue a career on research. But again, like if we go to this publication in the New England Journal of Medicine, hearing Dr. Fauci talking about that we are all scientists, I get trouble with that too, because we need to have a passion for this thing. We need, of course, physicians that take care of patients, but I think the basics of medicine requires you to be close to the scientific method, to be careful with the details, and that exposure to research is what can take us there faster. My dream is that every doctor will be a researcher, and we were all thriving in the same direction to improve healthcare, to improve public health, to find these cures to diseases. But still, we need people like at the front lines, taking care of patients, and not spending that much time into research. But I think there should be a balance. There must be a balance. And I'm going to quote again Dr. Fauci saying that we are all scientists. We have to be, because medicine requires us to do this research with every patient. We need to be curious about what we are seeing. If we are just there being machines of medicine, we are not physicians. Basically, we need to count our numbers. We need to make sure that we are seeing the diseases that we are seeing, that we are curious enough to come with case reports, to come with discoveries of new diseases, discoveries of new cures, new presentations of diseases. So I think that curiosity and being in tune with science is very important. And of course, it's asking too much for every med school in the world, high-income, low-income countries, to make everybody a scientist. But I think our goal should be that every physician is close enough to research, not to force it, because it shouldn't be that way. It has to be a passion on everybody of us. So it's a philosophical question that I have. I'm probably going to have forever, but I'm more inclined towards we are all scientists.
Those were two interesting views that I heard. Okay, now we are finally going to move on to our last topic of the discussion. We're going towards the end. So the final question is, what are the qualities of good mentorship? So mentorship is undoubtedly a key factor in promoting and maintaining fulfillment in medical practice, but how can one find an appropriate mentor? And how can one be a good mentor for generations to come? And what is the key to maintaining sustainable mentorship relationship? Okay, Dr. Chaithanya?
Yeah, I think this is something that I can talk about, because I think more than research, I've spent more time being a mentor, more time teaching IMGs and grads and med students. So I believe that the quality of good mentorship is having the time to dedicate to the person that you're mentoring. I think this is really important, because when we often seek out mentors, we seek out people who might be so busy, even though they're so established, if they're super busy and they don't have the time or the energy to spend time teaching us what we need to learn, then there is no point of having a mentor. So I think the most important quality that a good mentor should have is time to actually take out from their schedule to help their mentee. And I think this is really important, because this is something that I've seen happen a lot, especially in the USMLE journey, where a lot of people have mentors who are super busy and they don't end up getting proper guidance. Another quality of maybe having a good mentor is, having someone who's gone through the same process as you. If I had to have a mentor who was a US attending, who had done his med school from his or her med school from a US MD med school, I would not probably get the correct guidance I needed as an IMG, because I would rather have a mentor who is an attending, who has done their med school in India and then graduated and moved on to the US to do their residency because they've gone through the same path that I'm planning to pursue. So having a mentor who has gone through the same journey as you is really important, so that they'll be able to tell you about exactly about the pros and cons and what they've been through and what mistakes they did so that you shouldn't do. But I believe, especially when it comes to research, having a mentor means that they take a step back and watch you work. Because, being a mentor is that you let your mentees work. You do not do the entire work for them. You don't write the entire research project for them and then say, okay, I mentored students. It's more of the fact that you teach them how to write a research project, how to write a bioscript, how to do a basic literature search, how to reference, how to cite papers. All of these, you teach them the A to Z of research, and then you watch them work and you guide them. I think taking a step back while you're a mentor, you don't need to necessarily be the first author if you're a mentor. You can always be the last author, and you can take a step back and watch your mentees work and teach them how to, start working on the manuscript and the research paper. I think for research especially, this is something that's very important. I've seen a lot of, students who want to be mentors, but they also want to be the first and lead authors on their papers, which is difficult because if you're teaching someone, you want to make sure that they're learning and getting the experience that they need. So this is also something that I believe is a quality of a good mentor, especially when it comes to research and publication.
Thank you. Dr. Javeri?
Yeah, so I just have a small insight. I don't know what it's like to be a good mentor. I don't know what is the definition of that, but I'll tell you what I do. And like I said before, I have a younger brother, right? He's 5.5 years younger than me, and both of my parents are working. They're both doctors. So what has happened is, like, throughout my life, I've tried to be there for him, set an example for him, etc., etc., like all your elder brothers or elder sisters do in their life. And what I've found is, especially with like Otto also, or even with my juniors, I kind of take that approach with everybody that I talk to, or everybody that I'm trying to help. I just assume that, okay, I'm talking to my younger brother, and what that does is, like, I don't have to think about, oh, I need to be patient or I need to show empathy. You don't have to keep those things in your mind. Those things just come naturally, because it's like, yeah, this person, it doesn't matter how older they are than you. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter what cycle of the medical school they're in. Like at Otto, we've actually trained assistant professors how to publish articles, right? And I remember this was last year. I was an intern at that time, right? And what happened was, one of our assistant professors, who had again gone through the entire clinical system. So she was an excellent clinician at what she did. She was an internal medicine clinician, but she didn't really have any experience writing, a good paper, and she didn't have any experience getting things published properly. And my approach to that was not, oh, okay, I wasn't trying to be awkward or anything, but the what I did was, I defaulted to my original statement, which was basically, I just assumed this is my younger brother, I'm going to help him. And that brings a lot of empathy with you. That brings a lot of patience in you. You start seeing things how it might have been for them. So if you have a younger brother, or if you have a younger sister, or you have somebody, a nephew or a niece or something, right? And the relationship that you share with them, when you're mentoring somebody, regardless of age, experience, or whatever, try to think about them, like, again, not it doesn't apply everywhere. This is just a very general idea that I'm trying to give you, but it's a perspective that I'm trying to sort of share with everyone here. That I think that really changed me, and it really helped me connect with my mentees in a much better way than it would have, otherwise. Like with me being like the mentor and my mentees being my mentees. I think that that distance was erased very early, and I was able to talk with everyone warmly and communicate with them warmly, right? And I think that's very important. Like, you have to make them feel comfortable coming to you with problems, coming to you with issues. They have to be you have to create a safe space for them to let them express who they are. And trust me, they will surprise you. People will surprise you. It's unbelievable how much I've learned from my own mentees. I tell them all the time, I have learned more from you people, from you guys, than I have taught you. So it's things like that, that keeps it going. So yeah, that's all I had to say.
Thank you so much for that. And for the time being, I think we can move on to the question and answer segment. Lots of the questions that were submitted were actually answered. It has been a very productive discussion that we had, and it provided a lot of insight into and out of research. So it has been really, really insightful. So how does one come up with a research-worthy topic? So how can we ask valuable research questions? And how do we know that those questions are worth investigating?
You need to find a mentor.
I think if you're looking for a research topic, the first thing that you need to do before deciding on a topic is do a literature search. Because I think without searching the literature that's already existing, it's very hard to come across a topic or think of a topic where there is either a gap in literature or there are newer studies coming up. So I think to decide on a topic, and if you do have a broad specialty in mind, let's say you want to think of a topic in internal medicine or pediatrics, right? Do a literature search in maybe some of the topics that interest you, whether it's neonatology, whether it's pediatric infectious diseases, whether it's pediatric hemonc. But, do a literature search on the smaller topics. For example, if you're looking into pediatric hemonc, search about sickle cell anemia, search about if there's any, treatment updates or any newer trials or newer drugs. So once you do a literature search, I think that's when you figure out, okay, so this is something that hasn't been explored, or there is a gap in literature here. So this is something I can write about. So that's pretty much how you come to a conclusion and decide on a topic. So it's basically by doing research beforehand before you start your research publication.
I will say that I agree with Dr. Chaithanya, but I think before jumping in, it depends on where are you into your med school. To get a glimpse into the literature and the scientific work is not that easy. I remember myself being stubborn when I was a med student. I don't need nobody to tell me what is important to be done. But now that I have walked this pathway, I can tell that it's very important to be able to talk with somebody that is doing research and that they can give you a line to do research in. So, for example, if I'm gonna remember one of my mentors, Dr. Marisabel Gutierrez. She's from Cali and she works in violence and injury prevention. When I arrived to the institute, they have different lines of work: road safety, mental health, violence. And so I could join one of their projects and make it my own project. And that was something that went straight into the literature. If we finished the project, it was a publication that was going to go into the literature because it was something that was needed. It's completely different if we are medical students. I don't think it matters where are you in your training. The literature about a topic is so big, and you can go anywhere. You can go basic science, pathophysiology, pharmacology, anywhere into that topic, and you can be easily lost. So my advice will be more you want to start to do research, find a mentor. Look for the mentor background. Google the person. I have heard this advice before, actually. Google the person, check their PubMed history, their Google Scholar profile, see how many articles they publish per year. They publish once a year or once every other year. That's probably not the right person to go to. But if these people is working in a lab, publishing 6 or 10 times a year, that's probably somebody that you really want to reach to see if they have a project, because we all, as researchers, and I can tell you by my experience, have always projects doing nothing because we don't have the time or we don't have the people. And so I am studying for my step 2, for example, and so I have a list of projects that are just waiting there for me to grab the paper or grab the data or check how are we doing with the discussion or something to make it into a publication. And so there are always projects in this status in a researcher life. And so you find a person that is doing research in your university that is very fruitful, producing papers. They might have something that is there waiting for somebody to come and become a hero and publish this paper. So find a mentor.
I think that also comes down to what Mr. Tufik said regarding you really need to prepare yourself and like be ready when you're trying to look for opportunities. Dr. Javeri?
Yeah, I think there's one last step to that is when you're looking for a mentor, right? Try to approach that process with like a mindset of what can I do for that person, instead of thinking, okay, this is a mentor and I want to approach him and I want help from this person and I want them to help me. And that goes along the lines of what I think Dr. Tawfiq said, that you have to be skilled at something. So if you have anything that if you can make their life easier in any way whatsoever, you have a far higher chance of converting your approach into an actual, an internship or a project or whatever, rather than you approaching them saying, hey, I'm just a medical student and I'd like to learn research from you. If somebody comes to me like that, right, it's difficult for me to say yes, because like Dr. Escobar said, we have a million things running on our own plates. And we're medical students. Imagine professors have even more projects running on their own. So for them to train somebody who's a complete novice, and that's just another headache. But if you can help them do their job in like more efficiently, or you can essentially do labor for them wherever, in whatever sense. It can be statistics, it can be collecting data, it can be writing manuscripts, it can be doing literature search, whatever point of the process you want to get involved in. That will, gives you a far higher chance of converting your cold approach to like to an actual conversion, essentially.
Thank you so much for that. We will ask one last question. So the last question is, can you provide any advice on how to balance one's studies and extracurricular activities? Oral panels are clinician, a medical student, editor-in-chief, a CEO, and many more. So what are those secrets?
I think one of the things that people normally ask me is, how much time do you decide to devote to each of your, whether it's a nonprofit you're funding, or whether you're mentoring someone, or whether you're studying. So I think the one thing that you have to keep in mind is that take it one step at a time. When you start an organization, it doesn't necessarily have to grow overnight. It doesn't necessarily, you don't have to do all the work overnight and make it like an organization with 1,000 members. It has to start small. So I think knowing that everything takes time is really important. And when it comes to balancing, I believe that you have to kind of prioritize what's important to you at that moment of time. So when I was studying for my Step 2 CK for my USMLE, and we had just started Otto, so we had a lot of members and a lot of teams and projects running. However, I still had my Step 2 CK going on. So I think that was one of the most difficult times where I had to choose between studying for my Step 2 and also running a project with Otto, which I was really, really excited about. However, I think I did realize that my Step 2 CK had a shorter deadline and I had to give it more importance. And I took a step back from running the projects at Otto for a month until I was done with my Step 2. So I think learning how to prioritize what at which time is really important as well. And apart from that, like I said, once you start something and once it gets going, it will take its time, but it will grow. So having that patience and doing it one step at a time is pretty much, I think, the only secret that I have.
Yeah, I think what Avanthika said was on point. And just to add to that is, when you're trying to start out something, right, I think it's so crucial to focus on the long game rather than focusing on growth and focusing on how many followers my Instagram page has in terms of like if you're starting a journal, for example, or if you're starting a foundation, for instance. I think it's much more if you really spend time trying to grow the fundamentals and trying to really focus on a good product, or really providing a lot of value to, it doesn't have to be a lot of people, it can be a lot of value to a small number of people. That alone will grow your organization far more than you trying to help a lot of people a little bit, right? So that's just something that I think a lot of people have a misconception that you have to, when you start an organization in 3 months you want 1,000 Instagram followers and 1,000 people on LinkedIn. That's not really what you want. What you want is you want to help 50 people or 10 people really well. If you do that, within a year, your Instagram page or your LinkedIn page will cross 10,000, right? And it will happen. It just takes time. And as far as balancing it goes, like I said, yeah, we barely get time as medical students to even work on anything that we want to. Even things like research, which are not even considered extracurricular, they're co-curricular technically, right? But that's what I'm trying to tell you. You need to. That's why you need to do do the things that you enjoy. If you are going to do things that you enjoy, you will always find time to. You will find time. You will take out time from your day, and you will focus on it. Right? If I didn't enjoy research, or if Avanthika didn't enjoy research, we would never have been able to create Otto, because it's very hard. It's you're dealing with teams from across the world. You have all these people. Everybody has questions. You're trying to be there for everyone. You're trying to answer everything. But there's a passion involved, and that's what keeps it going, and that's what sustains the process. That's the only way. I don't think there's a balance there, but I think it's just being smart about what you're actually dedicating time to. If you don't enjoy what your co-curricular is or your extracurricular is, that will fall off. It'll fall off a cliff. If you get into med school, those things are gonna fall off a cliff. So your passions are very important. You focus on the 1 or 2 things you enjoy, and let the rest go. And if you're concerned about how practical it is, try to find a way of marrying that with having a positive impact on having a positive impact on the people around you. And that will create, I think that's like the golden formula. You enjoy what you're doing, you have fun while doing it, and it sort of takes care of your professional stuff as well, So yeah, that's about it.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, so we're now going to close the session now. But personally, what really came across to me in my mind is for research, how one actually needs to have passion for it, because that really becomes the driving force for you to become a better researchers. And that also links to your secret of successing in your field, and also becoming a better person in the field. So yeah, that concludes the talk of the month by the IASSS Young Researchers, How They Make an Impact. Thank you, Dr. Vanilla Escobar, Dr. Avanthika, Dr. Javeri, and Mr. Abdul Rahman. The discussion with you were all exceptionally inspirational, and I found it to be an enriching opportunity to be able to work with you. I hope that our paths will cross again in the future, and we will be able to work together. So the recording of today's talk will be available at a later stage at the IASS's YouTube channel and the website. If you are on the WhatsApp group, please stay in the WhatsApp group for further communication regarding the certificate of attendance. And please don't forget to sign up for the IASSS membership. So that's all from me, Sangan Lee from the IASSS Talks portfolio. Thank you everyone for joining today's discussion with us, and we hope to see you again soon.